Hi everyone. Today I'm going to talk about another course I did to help me become a better bartender. And that course is WSET 2 in Spirits. WSET stands for the Wine and Spirits Education Trust. It was born in the United Kingdom in 1969 when a trading company took over the education initiatives of the British Wine and Spirit Association. The latter is currently known as the Wine and Spirit Trade Association, or WSTA, and logically focuses more on trade. Back to WSET. Currently, they offer a wide range of courses that teach the student on history, tasting, and systematic quality assessment of wine, spirit, and even sake. Regular levels vary from 1 to 3 for spirits and 1 to 4 for wines, with level 1 being the simplest. I chose the level 2 course for spirits at Bols Bartending Academy in Amsterdam. Why not wines, you ask? Because at the time I was working mostly with spirits in my first bar, so wine was of less importance. Okay, but why level 2? Well, judging from the description, level 1 was too basic for my professional needs, and level 3 required much more knowledge than I had at the time, so level 2 was where I headed. I'd also seen this specific certificate as a prerequisite in certain job vacancies for high-end hotel bars, so it seemed to be a good choice. The course itself consisted of 2 full days of class, but you were expected to do some pre-studying on the literature. The course book didn't arrive that quickly, so luckily I'd already started home studying from various other sources. This is the book of that year. It details the history, fabrication, and specifics of all major spirit categories, from vodka to tequila and some basic cocktail information. Looking back, I can say that it is exactly extensive enough for the level that the course purports to have. So, what happened during classes? Each day of class we got several speakers, both from Bols itself and international guest speakers, to talk about the spirit genre that they happen to be experts in. Examples of guest speakers are David Trampe on agave spirits and Andrew Nichols for the rum section. Links to those guys are in the description below. All these talks were part repetition of the course material, part new material based on their field experience, and, importantly, live tasting. A live tasting encompassed tasting various variants within each spirit genre. By tasting back to back, we got to know the actual differences in flavor that resulted from manufacturing details on which we were lectured. Note that we had to spit out the hard liquor, not only to cleanse our palate, but also because of permit-related reasons. Tasting was done according to the WSET's Systematic Approach to Tasting, or SAT. This is an internationally recognized method of tasting and describing a beverage from start to finish. Roughly summarized, you start with the visual exterior, followed by the smell, then oral tasting, and finally the aftertaste. WSET goes in much more detail, of which the specifics depend on the level and type of course you follow. Each course comes with its own tasting notes card, fit for the genre and level. This is the one that came with Spirits Level 2. On the one side, it has 4 steps of judging a drink: appearance, nose, palate, and final conclusions. On the other side, there are examples of characteristics that you may find in a drink. Consider these examples your tasting vocabulary. Concerning this vocabulary, one great aspect of a group tasting in class is that you discover 2 things. 1, everyone has a different palate, so you should never be embarrassed or unsure if you taste something that the expert sitting next to you does not, nor vice versa. 2, despite this individual variance, the systematic approach to tasting does allow a mixed crowd to reach a shared conclusion. Say, for example, that we were judging the aftertaste development of some whiskey. One student may have tasted more grains, while the other perceived more vanilla notes from the barrel. However, at least all students agreed on the general length and intensity of the general aftertaste, regardless of specific aromas and their individual intensities. With repetition, we became trained in how to distinguish these characteristics more consistently and specifically. The Level 2 course for spirits ended with a theoretical written exam, and the results were mailed within 2 to 3 weeks, if I remember correctly. Since I took the course at Bols Bartending Academy Amsterdam, a tour through their own Geneva museum was included, which was interesting on its own. I had taken a basic cocktail course there before and got my very first shakers from their brand store. Worth a visit. So, concluding, was it worth taking this WSET Spirits course? For me, definitely. As a beginner bartender, it greatly broadened my view on spirits and their backgrounds. From the get-go, I was able to tell much more about the genre if a guest had any questions on it, and could back it up with a tasting experience. So, theory actually became really practical. Secondly, the method of tasting is something that I still use today. It got me to see a whole range of levels on which any single drink can have strengths or weaknesses. Besides that, it made me much more conscious of all the details in which you can describe and thus also enjoy when you drink something. Nowadays, I often catch myself just smelling a whiskey for 20 minutes and really enjoying its aromas before I even put the glass to my lips. I can't think of anything that the course did not live up to. For higher expectations, you can simply take a higher level. On a small side note, I did the European Bartender School course about a year later, and that course too gave similar theoretical info. EBS did have less tastings and the info was a bit more basic. So for me, the WSET Spirits on level 2 still stands on its own, especially with their SAT tasting method. Not that EBS pretended nor needed to be at the same theoretical level. Their emphasis is on efficiently making cocktails, which they do well. You can find my review on that course in this very playlist. Make sure to enable English subtitles. And now, on to the tasting. I have chosen what might very well be my favorite Amaro, or herbal bitter liqueur, Italian Montenegro. It has been a long while since I last tasted it, so this will be from a very blank slate, so to speak. Let's do a gear check first. Bottle, glass of water, pen and paper, WSET card, nosing glass. Now, this is how you can optimally use a nosing glass. Hold it as horizontally as possible. This way, the heavier aromas can float just above the surface, while the lighter aromas rise to the top. By then slowly moving from top to bottom, turning away between each layer, you can more clearly distinguish floral aromas from fresh fruits, from dried fruits, and so on. If an aroma is particularly strong and colors your palate too much, you can easily reset your palate by smelling your hand. Wait, my hand? Yes, because it has a familiar smell that is already a neutral baseline in your daily life. So by smelling your hand, any other previous extreme is overwritten, and you can then objectively perceive the next aroma. Alright, so now we know how to use the glass. Let's have a sip of water and start with WSET diagnosis.